Hello, everybody. We're back again. Another week. It is now October. September is over, and this year is almost over. Kind of crazy. It's been a wild year. Yeah, thank God. And so October tends to be like just Halloween central, and so people talk about horror movies and other stuff like that. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about some of the episodes from Black Mirror. So Black Mirror is a really interesting TV show that's sort of like an anthology series, similar to what would it be like?
The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, like the Twilight Zone, exactly. These films these episodes all have to do with some kind of science fiction concept where technology sort of takes a turn that has some unintended consequences. Let's put it that way. Like that tends to be like there's always some kind of moral in the story about the unintended consequence of what technology can do to humans. There's some really interesting stuff. And so today we're going to review this episode called USS Callister. And this is sort of basically a take on Star Trek, right? Mm-hmm. But done in the Black Mirror universe. So this is a really interesting one. And, again, there's this episode has another kind of moral quandary and some very kind of dark people, but sort of done within what the Black Mirror universe would be. So this is, had you ever seen this episode before?
I had not. No, I knew it existed, but I hadn't seen it and I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. That's the nice thing about Black Mirror is that you can kind of flip and dip wherever you want. So if you hear of a popular episode, you can kind of just go and watch it. You don't have to watch it from start to finish. I have heard that there's little tidbits of things that might happen in the background that might show up in another episode later, like something on someone's phone. I read that in this episode there's someone on a dating app that later appears in another episode.
Okay.
Pardon me. But yeah, no, I had never seen it before, but I was definitely curious.
Yeah, there sort of is a Black Mirror shared universe.
Something's going on. People like shared universes these days.
They do, right? It's like people are obsessed with it.
Yeah, I remember when I was watching The Old Guard, I was like, please be connected to the Immortals and Highlander. Please. Like, I wanted it so bad.
Yeah, I saw your review. You were saying it was basically Highlander all over again, right?
It is. I mean, it doesn't make it not good, but it's basically Highlander. But good.
Yeah. And so in like this Black Mirror, so like the technology that they use, so there's this technology that can take someone and basically put them into like, I guess what you could call mental space. So if you think of like an inner space like this within your mind, and then there's this massive architecture of what you could build inside of that mental space. That's something that is a recurring technology throughout Black Mirror episodes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is something that's kind of like they're just like, oh well, let's do a Star Trek kind of spoof or kind of, I don't know, a Black Mirror take on Star Trek using this technology to get us into there. This episode has an interesting opening, right? So there's like this, it's like the old Star Trek, right? Yeah. Like the original series episodes.
Yep, where there's digital, on film, grainy.
Yeah.
The colors are all muted and ugly, overacting. I will say the main character of the episode who plays Robert nailed Shatner's cadence. And, like his pauses, his inflections when he's like thinking about something, even like it was a very good homage to Shatner's performance.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons, he feels to me, he reminds me a lot of Philip Seymour Hoffman in some ways. Like a guy who, kind of blends in a little bit. Like he doesn't have the actor look. Like he's not Brad Pitt.
Yeah, he's
not.
ordinary,
Yeah, he looks ordinary, and so because of that, you can exactly in Hollywood. Like as a human, like he is not an ugly person. But like he kind of blends into the background and has a long, wide range of different performances that he can give. And so like in this, he's basically kind of playing two roles, right? He's playing this William Shatner parody or homage, and then we see him in the normal world, right? Where he's this kind of dorky, dweeby
pushover.
Pushover brainiac kind of guy. And he gives a interesting performance on both sides of it.
Yeah,
right.
And it's like this inner outward turmoil of like he's only in power when he's manipulating or controlling things inside of a video game essentially, or this interface, and he has absolutely nobody. His peers don't respect him. Like he's basically the boss, for God's sakes. He's one of two people who are the bosses running this company and is the brain behind it, and nobody cares. Nobody gives a crap. Like they all just they just push him over and treat him like crap. And which is, I think, something that a lot of us can relate to. Where you let people take advantage of you a few too many times, and then they have no respect for you whatsoever, and they'll walk all over you. And it's a hard line to balance, being in a position of authority, but also wanting to be friendly with people. It's difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And he definitely like this film has a lot to say, I think, about, like we'll get to the probably at the end, like the fanboy and like the obsessed fan. Like what does this episode have to say about those kinds of people?
No, because there are plenty of people who are like that in real life, and I don't want to like shame them or anything like that. You do you. But he's let himself get lost in it, in the fantasy, in the imaginary, like. And if anybody tells you, well, it's not real, right? They get so defensive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard plenty of different arguments when I try to tell people, like for example, like Star Trek fans are very like split down the middle. They can be very extreme, or they can be very welcoming, and it's not. You don't need to take it that seriously. Like it's, and again, with the trying to balance respect from your peers or the people below you, it's hard to get people to respect you if you're so fanboy-y, I guess.
Yeah, when you're so obsessed.
Yeah, when you're so obsessed to the point where you're literally taking people from your real life, like, and inserting them into this fantasy to have power over them when you don't in real life. For things that are petty. Genuine things that are petty.
Yeah. Like we'll get into it, but it's like someone gave him the wrong order of coffee, or someone was like, "Oh, why'd you stare at me?" And then he's like, he does what he does. Mm-hmm. So this like the opening scene, did that remind you of any particular episode of original Star Trek?
There's a lot of episodes like that. I think from the get-go, even though he sounds like Kirk, has a cadence like Kirk isn't cruel. Like, he isn't unnecessarily cruel, if that's who we're basing this captain persona that Robert exudes. Because like the guy escapes from the escape pod or whatever, but after he blows up the ship, but he's just kind of playing this weird cat and mouse game almost. And yeah, it was just, like I said, it could have reminded me of a number of episodes, but not one in particular that I can like think of myself.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole, like you said, he is playing cat and mouse. Like, he could take out the villain of Volzak or whatever his name was, but he like lets him go to the other planet so he can, I don't know.
Weird fetish game, and it's kind of creepy, and the way everyone's just like hip hip hooray, it's like, okay, this guy is like seriously insecure if people are doing that.
Yeah, and then he does like the like really weird, like the way he kisses like all the women or whatever.
Yeah, it's that to me was just like, okay, this is not normal.
Yeah.
This is not okay behavior. And also, I was like,
Yeah.
where the hell's the rest of the crew, too? You know what I mean? Like,
It's just them.
It's just these 4 people, and yeah.
Yeah, it's so okay. So we get this scene that's like, you know, original Star Trek, but something's a little off, right?
Yeah.
And then we see Robert basically where he works, and he works at this company, Callister Incorporated. And then we basically start seeing all these people that were on the crew of his ship. So like the front desk person was, I don't know, like a blue alien. Mm-hmm. What was she? Probably like the communications officer?
I don't think she was communications, but she had some kind of maybe ops or something like that.
Yeah, science officer or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And then he literally calls one of his coworkers helmsman.
Helmsman Packer? What?
Yeah, like what? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's where, like, the fantasy is bleeding into his normal life, and he doesn't seem excited to go to work. Not just because like his peers treat him like crap, but because like, oh, I can be in my game right now. Like I can be gaming.
Yeah.
I can be the one in charge right now. Like going to work is such a chore for him, and he's completely distracted by everything that's going on. And as soon as someone gives him real praise in real life, he has no idea how to cope with it.
Yeah, how to deal with it. Yeah, so we see all these different people. Then there's this jockey guy who is the villain. Like just like totally on point, right?
Yep.
The jock is the villain. There's another woman who thought he was creepy. There was the intern, mm-hmm. like the guy who works right under him, who's like, I forget what his job was.
I think he was just like a designer or something like that.
And then, so his whipping boy in the game is the CTO, mm-hmm. or the CEO. The CEO, yeah. Walton, who's played by Jimmy Simpson, who... Interesting actor. He's been in a lot of cool stuff, actually. Yeah, I like him. We were talking about before Westworld. He's in that. Mm-hmm. He's in that. He's first season of Westworld. Like, wow.
Yeah, that kind of threw me through a loop.
Yeah.
I was
like, Westworld season 1 is like, whoa, that was a way to like do a TV show where there's a plot twist that you don't see coming.
I just was like, because Ryan, my boyfriend, had seen it before me, so he was watching me, like, as the episodes were getting down there, like, towards the end. He was just, like, staring at me. I'm like, what? What is going to happen? He's
yeah.
Like, yeah.
You'll see. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's one of the, you know how, I feel like shows and movies are doing this thing right now where, like, there's 2 different plots happening, and you think they're happening at the same time, and they kind of overlap each other. Westworld did that very well. Without giving too much away, if you haven't seen the first season of Westworld. The Henry Cavill fantasy series, The Witcher.
Oh, The Witcher, yeah.
The Witcher also did very well. It's becoming a new theme, I've noticed, and I think we need to watch out for it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having these timelines that kind of... The Witcher, it felt a little more obvious that something was not totally happening at the same time. That in Westworld, they want you to think, oh, this is all happening at the same time.
Well, why wouldn't you that it wasn't?
Yeah,
like they covered
exactly.
their asses very well.
Yeah. Because like, and what I loved is like they talk about like how the past is just as real as the present, and that just really makes it all come. But yeah, that's great. Season 1 of Westworld, one of the best TV shows ever, for sure. Must-watch television. Okay, so in this episode, so then Robert meets Nanette Cole, who's this new employee, and is someone who actually likes him, like the work that he does. Like she's actually respects him and like is interested in the stuff, his coding and stuff, and thinks he's smart. And they have some interesting but awkward, but not terrible interactions. And then the CEO Walton kind of belittles him a little bit, which is something that's like, again, another recurring theme of this character. Like he says he's a pushover, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, he's a pushover in real life, and he kind of, I don't know, can't really deal with certain situations, social situations for sure.
No, he just kind of lets everything just go over him. It's not, and he's not even letting it go. That's the thing. Clearly, he doesn't let things go if he brings it into his fantasy realm where he can have control. He just kind of simmers and stews in his own anger and his own inadequacy to stand up for himself. Instead of being like, "Oh no, it's not a problem. It's okay." Like I've done that in my own life where like I've knowingly let people take advantage of me, even though I could definitely say no, and it wouldn't kill anyone if I said no. But sometimes it's easier just to say yes, so you don't have to deal with feeling bad, even though you do feel bad. It's a whole thing. So I kind of relate to him in that sense because it sucks, going to work, going to a place where you work every day and people don't respect you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you could tell like he's all the time. He's just Walton is just treating him so badly, and it's it's affecting him, but he can't express it. Mm-hmm. But then there's another part of this conversation with Nanette where he has like every episode of what they call Space Fleet in this universe. It's called Space Fleet. And he has them all on like VHS and DVD and Blu-ray. He's got a poster. He's got all these like toys. He's got like a little ship. He even named the company after the ship. So instead of like it'd be like if you named a company Enterprise, right? Mm-hmm. So he's a big Starfleet person.
Yeah, he's a big nerd.
Yeah, exactly. He's a big nerd.
He's a big nerd. Like, even I don't have that much Star Trek memorabilia.
He's all about it.
I mean, I have nowhere to put it, first of all. But, like, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Shelves of it, yeah. But then, Walton comes in and he tells him, hey, we got to get this update done, like, before Christmas or whatever. And he kind of cajoles him to do that. So like when you first watched this episode, like did you think that did you think that like the Space Fleet captain version of him was like a dream, or did you just think that it was some kind of technology, or were you not sure?
I wasn't sure at first. But once he went to work and you see what he does for a living, it kind of starts falling together a little bit. But yeah, I don't think he really knows if it's like a dream or not anymore. Like,
yeah,
like he's just I feel like it makes him happy when he's there, but he's just miserable when he's not. But yeah, I wasn't sure at first, but once what he did for a living came into play, it all kind of just started making sense a little bit. And it would make sense for him because I'm sure it feels very real inside this game or whatever, or inside this fantasy. So he has the technical know-how to make something that real.
Yeah, it's like super real for and yeah, again, this technology in the Black Mirror universe, it's like really, really real when you jack into this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we kind of get the big reveal of like what is going on. So Robert goes home, and he has his own version of Infinity. That's a Space Fleet mod that he created himself that he has control of. And so then he, it's like the Matrix, right? He just jacks into the Matrix.
Yep.
And he's the Space Fleet captain.
Yeah, he can be the hero, but he's actually the villain, which he doesn't tap into at all because he's so delusional. and he can just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, so he gets in, and then the first thing he does is he like just goes after the Walton in his little universe. So, and this is like his Spock, right?
Yeah, it's kind of his Spock and his McCoy like rolled into one. You know, neurotic, but we only find out he's acting neurotic because that's what Robert is expecting, basically. But yeah, he kind of just kicks the crap out of him. Yeah,
he's just like gets really mad at him. He's like, "You guys are incompetent because you let Valdek get away." Blah blah blah.
So like, actually, let him get away.
Yeah, right.
Like, that was your idea.
Yeah, like we could have, because like, you know, again later on we see they are hostages to him, and they cannot escape, and he keeps them trapped. So they're in his little power fantasy game, and he purposely is preventing them from being able to get out, pretty much. Yeah, and so then, you know, again, they continue to play this little wonky.
Yeah. He just gets progressively worse. Like, he pretty much stays the same. Like, he's kind of conniving and mischievous, like, in his real life, and nobody really catches on because, oh, he's harmless or whatever. But yeah, he kind of just gets progressively worse to his crew. These like, crew. Like, these people are like these. They might be a collection of data and whatever else that make them, but they're pretty conscious of what's going on. They're not stupid.
Yeah, and so then later on we see like how he brings like real people, and again these are all his coworkers. He's bringing in his coworkers and some other people related to the coworkers into this little messed up universe. So the next day Robert is like watching Nanette, and then like she gets some coffee in a cup, and then he, like, when she throws away the cup, he takes it, and then he takes it home, and he has this machine that can assimilate someone's DNA from whatever is there, and it can then place you into his little game universe. So he takes Nanette's cup, and the whole day, like, he's just basically waiting all day. So he starts it at night, he wakes up and is still assimilating, and then is at work and it's still assimilating her. And then the minute that she's fully assimilated, he goes into the USS Callister. And so she wakes up and she's like, her, I guess, avatar or something, whatever you want to call this sentient version of her inside of a video game. She wakes up and she's like, what's going on? And they, you know, the other crew members, they're chatting on the bridge, and they're just like, you know, basically another day in hell, right?
Yep. Another day in Robert's weird fantasy land.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, hey, you're it's a new girl. And they're like, you might want to sit down because we got some bad news to tell you. And she can't believe it at all. Yeah. What's going on? Because she thinks she's herself.
Well, yeah, that's what makes it even worse is that they're aware. They're self-aware. Then they're trying to live, even though like the other characters, like on the bridge, know that they can't actually die. They can still feel pain, and they still want to protect themselves. So there's self-preservation. They're aware of what's happening. They remember their other lives up until the point that they showed up to the game. And that makes it all the more creepy and terrible, because if they were just like mindless avatar drones, it wouldn't be as horrible, but it is. And so yeah, it would be a nightmare. You can't go to sleep. You don't have genitalia. You can't enjoy anything. Like, you're just always awake and always thinking.
Yeah, and they, as far as they can tell, there's no escape.
Yeah.
Like they can't, he controls everything, right?
Yeah.
He's the Matrix architect.
Yes.
So they can't even really, they don't even know how to like communicate with someone on the outside world, even if they could try to get out. And it's everything that the little sandbox that they're in it's offline. It's not connected to the internet as far as they know. And so they can't like send out a message through the internet to get someone out. So they're just trapped. And yeah, it's really crazy. So then Robert shows up and he's kind of like, you know, hey, new crew member, Nanette.
Yeah, he doesn't even like take her aside and be like, hey, this is what's going down. Maybe because he's already been through it so many times with the others that he doesn't see a point in doing any kind of introduction. He just goes straight into the game, straight into the fantasy. And when she doesn't play along, he kind of breaks character for a minute. He's like, come on, like, can you just like get into it a little bit? she's like, fuck no, like,
yeah. She's very defiant. Mm-hmm. Like her character's like super like, nah, fuck this shit. Yeah, and so then she continues to not like to be defiant, and then he kind of shows her how powerful he is, and he basically removes her face. Mm-hmm. So she has no eyes, no mouth, no nose, and she's like just suffocating.
But she can't. He even tells her, like, you can't die, but you'll just keep suffocating. Like, oh, that's horrible.
That is a demented level of evil, right?
Oh yeah, that's something like Q would do just for fun in Star Trek. Like he would just snap his fingers and like do that to someone. Like very Q level behavior. Yeah.
So like he's like on a massive power trip. Mm-hmm. This is not like some fun, cool, consensual, whatever kind of thing.
Nobody wants to be there.
Yeah, no one wants to be there, and it's really like, yeah, again, there's the thematic part of this film, right? This show, right? It's like, what does it say about these? Because there are these types of people, right? These people that they act like they're innocent, or they kind of like, oh, woe is me, the world is sort of downtrodden on me, but they really like, it's one thing to be like, I have been treated badly, so no one should be treated badly. It's more like, I'm treated badly there, but I wish I was in power.
Yeah, it's like I've been treated badly, so to the point where I have the right to treat other people like crap, or I'm so miserable, everyone else around me has to be miserable. Like, I've had managers who have been in a position of authority above me where that is their only goal. Everyone else I'm miserable, everybody else has to be miserable. Mm. If this is my problem, it's your problem. And it's like, that's not how a society can operate functionally.
Yeah.
Or function properly. And they're just energy vampires. They really are. It's like, oh, what was me? Let me tell you about how my cat died 5 years ago. Let me tell you about this horrible thing that happened to me 25 years ago that I'm still not over. And it's like, not that I don't feel for certain people like that, but you can tell the difference between who is just not looking for attention necessarily, but just trying to like bring everybody else down, as opposed to other people who are just like, oh yeah, this happened to me and it was bad, but how was your day? And it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, they're just, like I said, they're just energy vampires, and they make you miserable. And
yeah, energy.
And that's definitely his goal, is like, I'm miserable. I hate my real life. So I'm going to exact revenge and power over these beings because I'm mad. Isn't that like, what incels are, kind of a thing? Or what is it, simps or something? I don't know. I'm really behind on stuff like that. I don't know. But like,
well, incel for sure.
Yeah.
Simp is like, that's a whole nother kind of thing.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I feel like a guy like him, what he needs to do is take control of his life and be like, to Walton, hey, dude, like, do you understand that I could just walk away and this whole thing is over? So you have to respect me, right? Like, that's how you actually deal with those types of problems, is you have to assert yourself, but in a way that's not toxic, and let people know what your value is. Like that. Yeah. That's how adults deal with conflict.
That's how they should deal with conflict and should deal with confrontation. He doesn't want to have the confrontation, though. That's the thing. He doesn't have a backbone enough to have the confrontation. And I understand confrontation is very hard, like, but there's a way of doing it where it doesn't have to feel like it's confrontation. You're just like, hey, we're two adults, we need to hash this out. Like, again, I had an incident like that in my former job, and instead of just realizing that this person had, insulted me in so many different ways over the course of one day, that when I finally snapped, they just gaslighted me with like, ugh, this is why it's your fault, and this is that, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're completely missing the point of why I'm mad. Like,
yeah.
And it's a terrible feeling, because you just feel so helpless, but he doesn't want to have that conversation with Walton. It's easier for him to just pick on him, because this is a deep-rooted thing. This is years of anger and just being mad about things that you could easily take care of in your real life.
Yeah, it's like at first he, because again, he's a really smart guy. And this sort of feels like the Social Network, Mark Zuckerberg kind of complex, where it's like a person who's really, really intelligent, but they're not good at dealing with certain social situations. Mm-hmm. And so in order to compensate, they go inward and they think, oh, if I'm accomplished, that's going to resolve those interpersonal conflicts, and then it's going to make them better, but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Success does not make you a more social person, doesn't make people treat you differently. It's just another level of the same bad. And because of that, he's like, okay, so if I'm not getting what I want in the real world, now I can get what I need in the fake world. I can exert all of my power. I can let out all of my frustrations on these things, that these avatars that I have total dominance and control over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Success does not always equate respect either, I found, because it still goes back to how you treat people. Also, it doesn't really seem like Robert takes any interest in his coworkers' lives at all. Like, he doesn't ask them anything personal. Maybe because it's easier for him to disassociate when he's in the game, because if he knows something personal, well, I mean, he knows about Walton's son, which we later find out about, but that just makes him more sinister. Like, it's just a bigger, easier target to hurt Avatar Walton. Even though the kid's perfectly fine. But the fact that this guy has thoughts like that is messed up.
Yeah.
Like, this is years and years of anger and no therapy whatsoever, clearly.
Yeah. He doesn't talk to anyone about how he really feels.
Yeah, and like, again, going back to like your fantasies and stuff like that, part of that is shame. People have shame in their fantasies all the time, which, is something that I think is very relatable. But this is getting to an extreme, to an extreme. And he knows that they're conscious. Like, he's not stupid. He knows it. And I wonder if he programmed them that way on purpose. Yeah, so that he could, when he like kind of breaks them, he can have the satisfaction of domineering them, Oh, he's definitely a sadist. Definitely a sadist.
Which could be fine, but this is not a consensual way to do that kind of stuff. No. Yeah, it's all so bad. Yeah, the worst possible way. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about Black Mirror, is like it brings up all these questions of morality and philosophy with technology. Like, how immoral is it to create a sentient person and then treat them like they're your little plate, like they're ants in an ant house, ant colony.
It's like if you create an AI or you create clones and stuff like that. Like, you have a responsibility because you made it. Like, and he doesn't care about that responsibility. He just cares about hurting people.
Yeah.
Because it's,
Yeah.
again, pettiness, petty behavior. Like, and what, like, again, I think we talked about virtual reality before and how it scares me because it's like, this is why.
Yes.
There's people like that who would use it and abuse it, and then not even know the difference between. It's like a lucid dream. You don't know if you're actually dreaming because it's so euphoric and it's so amazing. Like, I had a lucid dream once where I was flying. Like, I realized I was dreaming. I didn't wake up and I'm like, I'm just gonna fly. Oh, I want the Hogwarts Express. I want to land on the Hogwarts Express, and it happened, and it was great. But it got to the point where it was freaky. Like,
yeah,
it's like that level of you can't tell the difference anymore. And when you do see the difference, it's just so drab and depressing and awful because like the color, there's an absence of color a lot of the times in his real life, and then there's all these bright, poppy and beautiful reds and blues and greens and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's got a lot of problems, right? So now they finally, Nanette, like she has to comply. So all of them, they go on this mission to find Valdek. And so then they beam down to the planet, and it's again the classic Star Trek TV show kind of stuff. Like Valdek is down there, and he like has basically a rocket launcher.
He has a giant plasma rocket launcher, and there's like a big spider creature.
Yeah, there's a giant creature. Yeah.
And they're like, oh my god, how will we ever live? And I think the Net's like, I don't even have a phaser. Like, at least you guys have guns. Like, they don't work.
Yeah, they don't work. They do nothing. They literally do nothing.
And yeah, Walton's like super like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. Who will save us?
Yeah. It's so funny. And then there's like this subplot that comes in later that's important where he like pauses the game to go pick up some pizza. Another person he treats like shit. The pizza people. Yeah. People who deliver his food, he treats them like trash.
Yep. Yeah.
And this guy's like, he's got a lot of money. He's the CTO of a big company.
He doesn't tip. It's like, are you kidding me?
He's horrible. He's a horrible person.
Yeah, when you really get down to it, you stop feeling bad for him pretty quick. You stop feeling bad for him pretty quickly. And it's like, you're just a douche who's obsessed with a TV show, obsessed in a game. Like, because I feel like he's just like, why should I be polite to them? Because I've got something way more important going down.
Yeah. Just at every level, you realize this person's so bad. He's just so bad. So yeah, he does. I forget what he does, but he figures out, how to get the creature to like go away, and he like subdues Valdek. And then again, we get this moment where like Valdek's like, "Yeah, kill me, like please kill me," because death is a way out, right? Like then you're finally out of this hell where you have to play this dude's game, and you have to be the villain every day, or you have to fucking make out with this guy every day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's torture.
Yeah, but then he says, "Oh, killing a cold-blood is against a space fleet code of conduct. We're gonna take you to the brig."
Like, he's such an asshole. And like this poor guy's screaming, "Just kill me" or something like that.
Yeah. He's like, "I was a good adversary, right? Like I've earned a yeah." And it's like, no, not gonna kill you. Sorry.
No, and again, that's kind of on point for like how Captain Kirk would have dealt with some things. Like, I'm gonna be the bigger person and not kill you. It's like, thanks, Kirk. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. This guy is very different from Kirk.
Oh yeah. Again, he's not unreasonably. He's only keeping him alive so that he can keep torturing him. Kirk would have kept him alive, been like, "You're gonna be court-martialed, or we're on our way back to Deep Space 7, and you're gonna spend your life in a penal colony," or something like that. But he always gives him some kind of like I don't know, wisdom he passes along. That's just like, well, this is why you're a bad person. You could be better. Could better yourself. But now Robert's keeping them alive to like just toy with them. It's not to teach them anything. It's just to be a dick.
Just to be a dick, exactly. So they beam back up, and again, it's the hip hip hooray.
He did it.
And then he tries to kiss Nanette, and she just slaps him upside the face.
It's like, yeah, no, this is not happening.
Yeah, this is not happening. So he shows her mercy again. This dude is just like trash. I'll show you mercy. I won't torture you because you feel uncomfortable with me forcing myself onto you in a very awkward way.
No, I'll just turn the person who's defending you into a space fighter or some shit. Into some weird. I really like that actress who plays the she's kind of like not a receptionist, but I feel like she's probably in customer service in some way in Robert's real life, but she was in the television or the Netflix show Chewing Gum, and it's hilarious. It's a very funny TV show that she's in, but no, I loved that she was in this. She was great. And then he turns her into a spider, because they mentioned earlier that the spider on the other planet's name was Jillian, and like she also, I think she looked at him the wrong way or something, and that's why he brought her in.
Yeah, all the most trivial reasons why he decides to torture these people. It's like, oh yeah, the helmsman, well, he got my coffee wrong. Oh well, the other woman, said that I stare too much. It's just like, oh, the receptionist is just like
indifferent.
She was indifferent to me.
she doesn't care, dude. Like, no one's under any obligation to be nice to you.
I know, yeah. And so therefore I'm going to take these people's DNA without their consent, create a clone of them in this universe, and then torture their clone ad infinitum.
Until he gets bored, or until
exactly, until he gets bored.
And
this is the scene where we find out they have no genitals. They're just like Ken dolls. And they just talk about like how they tried to like sort of have sex or something.
Yeah, we tried to rub them against each other, but nothing happened. Like, it's so gross. Or one of the characters just like, I don't even have the satisfaction of taking a shit. Like,
I love that.
Can't shit, can't have sex. It's just like,
it's just can't kill yourself, can't die.
Yeah, then that's just kind of like I draw a line at him taking my pussy.
Yeah, that was great. That was really funny. So Nanette she's like, we have to find a way out. And she was like, because like in real life, she's like really smart.
Yeah, she codes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. He didn't know her well enough to put her in this game. And that was his biggest mistake, is that he knew her. He had like 2 conversations with her. He has a little crush, puts her in the game. You should really vet the people that you're putting in your game, dude. Like, even if they're going to be prisoners and you think they're smarter, there's always someone smarter than you. Always.
Exactly, yeah. So she's smart enough to find a way out. So she hacks the system, and she finds a way to send a message through his account to someone on the outside world. So she sends one to her real self. So she sends the message to her real self. And it's like in all caps, like, oh my God, help me, there's cybercrime, do something now.
Yeah, and she goes to him and she's like, did you send me this? He's like, oh, it's probably just a hacker or a bot or something like that. Firewalls don't always keep them out. But I think he's sweating a little bit.
Yeah, he's sweating a little bit. And so then he's like, oh, you need to get a better like firewall or protection on your phone. She's like, oh, okay. Then he goes back into the game. And this is really like he starts off like doing the Kirk kind of like inspirational speech.
This is why we're in space fleet. It's just kind of like, oh God.
Like the main. It's so funny. Like the reason we're in space fleet is we're here to do the greatest thing of mankind, and I want to fucking kill you. How dare you do it? He's like,
he has tantrums. He's such a child.
He's a child.
Such a child, and like when the game doesn't go his way, he throws a tantrum and stuff like that. And it's I'm sorry, I've heard people game, like sometimes Ryan plays a game while I'm typing or whatever, and like Ryan is not a vulgar person. He does not curse, he does not swear, which is the polar opposite of myself. But when he games, he's like, "Oh, you loser," and stuff like that. But when I game, I'm like, "You son of a fucking bitch! God damn it! How dare you not marry that simp? Like, God damn it!"
Yeah. He has some heating gaming moments, but it's like with real people, right?
Exactly, but that's so true of how people game sometimes. Like, I've heard my brothers do it. Like, even his nephew gets really heated when he's playing like Minecraft or something. I don't know. I know nothing about games. But it's just like that's something he would do. Yeah. Just like, you ungrateful sons of bitches. He just throws this tantrum. And it's like, dude, you can't, like, what do you want? Like, get a life. Go for a walk. Go to the park.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's crazy. So then I think her name's Shania. So she begs him, like, "Oh, spare her. Don't hurt her. Please." He's like, "Okay, I'll spare her." And then he turns Shania into a freaking monster instead.
that was fucked up. It's like,
just a vindictive, evil person.
yeah, you
straight up.
Baby. Like, I almost feel like I wonder if he started this as one. Like, I know Walton expands more on it later, but I wonder if he almost started this to have friends, to like make friends, and it snowballed into something sinister as soon as he realized he could cause them pain. Because clearly he has no friends on the outside. Like, these are his source of. This is his social life, if you really think.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's it. This is his social life. That is it. But he doesn't even interact with other people who play the game. Like,
no,
just that. Like, that's it.
And he's trying to keep his little sandbox, from touching the real world.
Yeah.
Like, he can't handle the idea of interacting with other actual humans.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to him really underestimating Nanette, because when they meet, she even says, "Oh, I'm just fangirling," and blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't know anything else about her except that she's shy around him, so therefore she must be just like him. She must be introverted. She must be a too. And she's not, because it shows, we see exactly what kind of person Nanette is as soon as she wakes up. Like, she's not a pushover. She's strong. She's intelligent. She doesn't want to be trapped here. At least, her avatar doesn't want to be. Therefore, her real self wouldn't like being trapped anywhere. And he seriously underestimates her ability or her drive to be free of this hellhole.
Yeah. He definitely underestimates her. But yeah, like you said, it's because he has no interest in learning anything about these people. It's just. And I think the way this started, it probably started was just like, oh, I want to make a world that's like the TV show, and that's what the whole game is. We find out later the whole game is basically just like a massive MMO Star Trek kind of game, pretty much. So yeah, he was just trying to do that, and then he's going to make this little mod that's just it's like a fan service kind of mod, right? Which happens a lot. Actually, people mod games, do all kind of stuff with them.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think of like Skyrim. Like, there's a ton of Skyrim mods that are really kind of interesting. But yeah, anyway, so then he's like figured out how to use this DNA technology to bring actual people into the game, and I think he wanted to bring in what's his name?
Walton.
Yeah, Walton. I think he wanted to bring in Walton as a way of like letting out his anger on the avatar Walton. But then he was frustrated because, we find out he couldn't really get through to, and the Walton was the first person he brought in, and he couldn't get through him. Like, he was just like unfazed by all of the different techniques of torture that he tried. And then, Walton tells a story of like he cloned his son Tommy into the game.
Yeah,
it's just also creepy because he's always waiting, right? He's always looking for an opportunity, and in real life, he just does all these things where he like sees a person like he's like some slight happens, right? So like, or something sets him off, and then he's like, oh, how can I get an opportunity to take their DNA so that I can then use this person in my game?
Yeah, and he just rationalizes that it as, oh, well, they were a dick to me, so I'm just gonna be a dick to them back. And it's like you said, he's very opportunistic, and he'll use any excuse now to pick somebody else, and it's very predatory too.
Yeah, and so this whole thing with Tommy is really crazy. So Tommy like left like a sucker or something, and then he stole that. Yeah, got his DNA, put Tommy in the game, showed Walton Tommy, and then he kills him. Like he puts him in the airlock and he just kills him. And he talks about how like he goes into space completely froze and then broke like a piece of like a plate or something, like a piece of glass, like porcelain.
That's horrible.
And and that broke Walton, just broke him basically, and then he submitted.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's you know that he's always trying to find that point where he gets someone to submit to him, basically.
Yeah. Because he's the master of this domain, literally, and he's just a dick. You stop, like I said, you stop feeling bad for this character really fast, and it's just like, you're just an asshole. Like, ooh, you tripped over someone's gym bag. Get over it.
Yeah. He tripped over his gym bag, so let me make him the eternal villain.
Yeah,
and also
like why don't you be a boss and tell him put your fucking gym bag in your locker?
Right.
Like, why is your gym bag just laying around? Like, I don't know. Tell him to put it away, shove it under your desk, find a locker, leave it in your car. Like, there's so many ways he could have stood up to these people, again, without it being confrontational. Like, hey man, maybe next time, put it in your locker. Like, this is a huge facility that's worth millions of dollars. I can't imagine there's not a locker room. Like,
exactly. But instead, he'll say nothing when he's angry, but then he'll wait to steal this guy's DNA and then torture his clone.
Yeah, instead of just being straight up about it, he's just, oh, well, he's against me. He leaves his gym back out, like, on purpose to, like, be a dick and fuck with me. Like, no, you're just paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, we see glimmers of his paranoia when probably most of these people don't even think about him. Like, the receptionist doesn't think about him. She's completely indifferent. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we kind of see Shania's character and the guy who ends up becoming the jock, like, kind of maybe giggling or laughing about it, but it's like, dude, you're like 30.
I know, yeah. It's really weird that he's like, it seems like he just spends his time at work watching his coworkers.
Yeah, it's like, no wonder why you can't get the update out until Christmas Eve. You're not working. Like, you're just waiting until it's 5 o'clock and you can punch out and go play your creepy game. Like, it's only out of obligation he goes to work.
Yeah, pretty much. So Nanette has a plan, right? So the plan gets initiated. So Robert comes into the game and they have another mission, and they kind of make up something. Oh, this ship, they need help. They're stranded. It's like, oh, Space Fleet, we don't leave anyone stranded. You know. So they go to help the ship. Then Nanette and Robert, they beam down, and then she to stall him. So basically, their plan is they need to steal his his
device. It's like his remote. It's like his controller for the game.
Yeah, they need to steal his controller for the game so that they can basically access the internet through his through his interface. And pretty much their whole plan is that there's a part of the game that is going to update when the update happens. And in the game, it's basically a wormhole. Mm-hmm. So they are going to distract him, steal his comm or whatever, send a message to the real Nanette and then get her to do the stuff that they need her to do, which is like get rid of the DNA, distract him, do all this other stuff, so that they can then not get cloned again, but also get away, get into the wormhole, and get into the actual internet where they're free.
Yeah, and Nanette basically blackmails herself with like nude pictures she has on like her iCloud or whatever.
Yeah. Well, they're like lewds. I wouldn't even say they're nude. Yeah.
But so they're lewds, and so that she basically tells them, okay, blackmail me. I'll do anything to keep these pictures private, and that's how you'll get me, because they need her to break into Robert's house, basically.
Yeah.
And the real Nanette, like, nobody knows that this is actually going on. You're only invested in their avatar versions of themselves. So yeah, like that's how they get the real Nanette to like help them without her even knowing who they are. Yeah,
and so the plan works, right? So then the Avatar Nanette and Robert are like she's like, oh hey, like let's go for a swim.
Yeah, let's go swimming. He's just like, what? Why? And she's just like, come on, Robert. He gets in the water with her, and it's super awkward. I love when they're splashing each other because like you see her face like, aha, like splash.
Yeah. That was great. Yeah, because she's just like, just like, yo, let me let some steam off on your face.
It's really awkward because even he feels awkward because again his persona is dropping and he's awkward again.
Yeah, the super
cool anyway.
The super cool captain of the ship. Yeah, that whole thing is like the persona is going away, and he's this weird, pasty, awkward
30-year-old who can't cope.
Yeah, 30-year-old who's probably never had any real relationships.
No. Yeah.
And again, the other thing too is like, I don't know. It's also interesting because like he purposely desexualizes the whole thing, which is like a whole another interesting topic.
Yeah, it's not about like because he could have sex with them. I'm sure if he wanted to, like I'm sure he could do something, but he doesn't. So it's not a sexual thing. It's merely just a power trip. It's just about the power. Yeah,
it's just about the power. It's just about exerting total dominance over these people. Yeah, so yeah, that was fun. Like they're splashing around, and then another part of the plan was that the real life Nanette calls the pizza guy to deliver pizza so that he's gonna go away. And while he's pausing the game, they're gonna fly the ship into the wormhole to get the hell out of there.
Yep.
So
which they know it's supposed to be just certain death for them, which I think is actually interesting because in Star Trek stories, it's always about preserving life, and these are characters who are totally fine with like just extinguishing it. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going on and on and on, and there's no purpose at all.
Yeah, they just want to get out or die. Just death is right. That's they'd be happy. Well, I mean, right? Like death is better than being in hell.
Exactly.
Non-existence is probably better than being in hell, I'd say. If that's your life. So the distraction works, and again, we see Robert talk to this pizza guy. This interaction was interesting on a number of levels. He's like, "Oh, I didn't order pizza. I don't want pizza." And then he's like, "Okay, I'll take the pizza." So he takes the pizza, and the guy's like waiting for a tip, and he's like, he doesn't even talk to him, right? Just slams the door in his face, and then just like leaves him high and dry.
Yeah, pretty much.
But then he eats the pizza, like he's eating the pizza.
Yeah, he still eats it, like because he's just a dick, and he's like, "Okay."
He's just a dick. I didn't want the pizza. I didn't want the pizza.
Yeah. Like, meanwhile, Nanette is like raiding his little mini fridge. With all his little. That's another thing. They're like souvenirs, like how serial killers like take souvenirs from like victims. He does the same thing.
Yeah, and he has them labeled. He has like names of different people.
Yep, and she's like the real Nanette's like, what the fuck is this? Like, it freaks her out. So she takes them and then she escapes.
Yeah, she gets out. She escapes. Robert gets back into the game. He sees everyone's gone. He gets into the shuttle. So there's a shuttle that was on the planet. And then the shuttle AI tells him, "Oh, the Callister is heading towards the wormhole." He's like, "What? No!"
Tantrum.
Yeah, he's another temperature. And it's very kind of similar to like an actual Star Trek villain, I feel like.
Yeah, they have their meltdowns. What do you mean they're escaping? I thought we put them in the brig. Well, sir, seems they're smarter than us.
It kind of reminds me of like Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams one, where like where it was Captain Nemo, right? Was the villain? Nero. Yeah, so like Nero is just like really pissed off at Spock, and he just like starts screaming Spock, like Spock! Ah!
He just starts losing his shit. Yeah, these villains don't generally tend to keep their cool when things don't go their way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah. So he's trying to catch up to the USS Callister, and they're not going to make it, so they have to go through like an asteroid field, and which is kind of. Has there been any shows where that had to happen, where they like had to go through like an asteroid field or some kind of something?
Plenty of times, or they've used asteroid fields to like hide themselves and stuff like that. Star Wars has done that. Star Trek, it's a convenient story plot to use in space.
So they have to go through the asteroid's field to like cut across, so they get to the wormhole faster. But he's gaining on them. Then the Callister loses power, like the engines fail for some reason, and so then Walton sacrifices himself. Like he turns the engines back on, but then they
vaporize him. Yeah,
they vaporize him. Yeah, and then the crew gets through the wormhole like just in time. What's his name? Robert gets stuck. He's stuck there in his little universe. And then he kind of has a weird fate. I'm not sure if he like is stuck or he died, or if he's just gonna be there until someone gets him out.
Yeah, it's kind of ambiguous as to what happens to him. I feel like it's more appropriate if he's alive but still in the game and trapped in the hell that he made. I think it's more poetic, and I think it makes more sense with the story and just parallels what he was doing to them, and now he's alone. So with no way of getting out, really. So until like I don't know, maybe the cleaning lady comes.
Exactly, like the cleaning lady, or like someone from work, like, hey, dude, But anyway, so our characters, like they. This is like one of my favorite parts of this whole episode. So they don't die, but they end up in somewhere, maybe, I don't know. Well,
like that's what I kind of got from that. They just kind of landed in the internet because of the update.
Yeah, they landed. Well, what I like too is they're in the JJ verse, right?
Yeah, they're in the JJ verse. Those lens flares. I think they're doing too much on purpose because I can't stand lens flares anymore.
Oh my god! Like we immediately get a freaking lens flare, and they got the modern, like it's the modern kind of JJ.
It looks like the JJ Abrams, the Kelvin bridge of the Enterprise. That's what it looks like.
It's the Kelvin bridge. They're wearing the updated clothes.
Yep.
I thought that was, but they're alive. They didn't die.
They're alive. They're well. They're happy.
Yeah, and so they. The Avatar Nanette becomes the captain, and they interact with some Aaron Paul. It's Aaron Paul, by the way.
That's Aaron Paul's voice?
Yeah, that was the voice of Aaron Paul.
King of space.
I'm the king of space. You better leave, bro.
You better run.
You have anything to trade? You don't?
You have nothing to trade. Get out of here before I blow your asses.
Yeah.
That's like cocky game talk. It's just like, you can't actually hurt me. Like,
yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they just bounce.
Yeah, they just go and have their own little adventures because in the vastness of the internet, it says vast as the universe, it seems.
Yeah. So they're free. Yeah, and that was the whole show. So what'd you think? Like, what were your overall reactions?
Oh, I liked it. I liked it a lot. You know, it was very much an episode that I feel like could have been in Star Trek. There's been episodes of like in Next Generation of people abusing the holodeck with the character Reg. He just completely loses himself in the holodeck and takes control of the ship at one point, and it's just a real. I mean, Reg has all kinds of issues, not the least of which is being a stalker. Like total stalker. Like he only gets therapy advice from Deanna Troi because he's obsessed with her. That's the only reason. But yeah, stuff like that's happened in Star Trek before, which I always like a good holodeck episode. It's fun, kind of shakes things up, and yeah, I thought it had a moral and a villain, and yeah, it was good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, this was a cool one for sure. But I think what's interesting too is just thinking about like what this says about like the toxic fanboy culture, right? Because this Robert character is just like the archetypal toxic fan who just has these unrealistic expectations of like what the media should be for him.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's like you want to see Daisy Ridley's boobs, but you don't want her to be in Star Wars. That's who he is. It's like,
yeah,
it's that toxic fanboy of like, you're a girl, you don't understand Star Wars, you can't like Star Trek, you're cosplaying as a Mandalorian. Who gave you the right to do that? It's like, I was listening. So there's a new Star Trek podcast called The Pod Directive, and it's really good. And there's an episode that I just listened to where it's all women from all different walks of life who have done Star Trek or have enjoyed it. The woman who hosted is a voice on Lower Decks, and they have Michelle Hurd, who is in Star Trek Picard. But the host was basically talking about how, like, you know, anytime I've met a guy who's a nerd and likes Star Trek, and I said, oh yeah, I'm really into Star Trek, like I really enjoy it and stuff like that, they immediately want to tell her something about it. Like, oh, well, did you know this? And because she is a woman of color, the first thing they want to tell her is, oh, well, did you know that Star Trek had the first interracial kiss? They always want to educate you about something. And it's like,
yeah.
I know because I like it. Like, I already know all these things. And they actually talk a lot about Plato's stepchildren and how it's a grossly inappropriate episode to begin with. Being the first of its kind or not, it was almost like it was for all the wrong reasons. And it's so like they were so concerned about how it would be viewed in the South, and like,
it's going to be viewed negatively.
Yeah, is it going to be viewed negatively, or will it be viewed positively? And like after, like when they kiss, you only see Kirk's face. It like completely blocks out Uhura, like he dips her or something like that, and like you just see this. It's so awkward, and he whips her, I think, at one point.
Mm.
So
he whips her?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Like, these gods or these aliens are making them do things that they don't want to do. So they were like, "Oh yeah, that'll make up for the Southern viewers." But it was interesting listening to these women they were all women of color talking about their experiences with Star Trek and how women are sometimes viewed in science fiction, and how, you know, there wasn't really a place for us for a long time. And it was interesting because, like, I've experienced that. Like, I have a troll on my YouTube channel that loves to educate me about Star Trek all the time. And I'm like, I know. Like, I get it. Let it go.
It just makes the whole fan experience kind of worse. It's like, why do I need to prove myself to other people about my interest?
Exactly. And whether you just like the new shows or you just like TOS or the 90s, like, it's just, who cares? We're all here because we like the show, because we like the overall message. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we're here. You know, I'm not here to be told X, Y, and Z about how I have a bad opinion because I think disco has good moments, or I think there's flaws in TOS or X, Y, and Z. Like, it's art. It's allowed to be criticized. Like, and I'm allowed to like what I like, bro. Like, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, the toxic fanboy mentality is not one that I'm a fan of, and I like making fun of them.
Yeah. And I feel like this character really is emblematic of that, from the way that these people, and you could just almost think of like the way that Robert deals with people in real life, but then like it's almost like the the avatars are just like internet people that they interact with, right? It's like instead of, I don't know, dealing with your own stuff in your personal life, you then go on the internet anonymously or pseudo-anonymously and slag people, like the people that troll you or whatever. It's just like, dude, get a life.
Yeah, it's like, I know I am an adult enough to sit down with someone I have an issue with and have an adult conversation. You're just trolling someone for no reason, just to be a dick, to make yourself feel better. Because, yeah, some of these people don't have any control in their real lives. And it stops being a hobby and it takes over everything. It's like, if you spend all your time in forums or on video games and stuff like that and forget that there's real life out there, like that's when the human side of you starts like slipping away. Because people do have feelings, and I know that's such like a, I don't know, millennial thing to say, but like, it's true. Like, I just feel bad for them, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of makes me sound really snobby, but I'm not trying to sound snobby. I just don't like idiots.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, I feel like this was a pretty good episode in terms of like the morality of what it was trying to get at, right? Because, I mean, like I don't know when this episode came out, but hold on, let me check. It came out. Okay, I'm not sure, but like when the whole thing happened at the end of Star Wars, like once The Rise of Skywalker came out, I mean, really, honestly, like once The Last Jedi came out, and regardless of how you think of the film, it's not okay to attack the actors for the film. It's like Kelly Marie Tran just got assaulted on social media.
I didn't care for her character, but I don't know her as a person. Like, that's fucked up. Like, what the hell? Like,
but you don't feel the motivation to then go on and find her on Instagram and like DM her death threats.
I would never do something like that. I don't know how anybody does that. Like, I don't know how anyone sends a death threat. Like, fake or not, I don't know how anybody actually does that. Like, it's so mind-boggling to me. I can honestly say, and people can dig through my shit if they want, I have never sent a death threat to somebody that I didn't like. Like, because they played a character. Like, that's not who they are. They're an actor, you moron. It's like,
they're a human being. Like,
I don't understand how you can be that upset to send a death threat to an actor playing a character. It's the same in like the Sherlock fandom when I mentioned this before. Martin Freeman's wife played his on-screen girlfriend and wife in the show, and she got death threats because she's an actor and married to someone. It's like,
that's crazy.
Like, I can understand why celebrities are getting, at least some of them are getting more and more private, and they're getting more and more introverted, and I would be. Like, that's why fame is a nightmare, in my opinion. I wouldn't ever want that.
One of the craziest ones that I saw recently was, so Chadwick Boseman passed away, and a bunch of people had tributes for him, which was good. Like, Marvel cast people. And so, what's her name? Elizabeth Olsen didn't. And people just started attacking her. People just started attacking her, and she had to shut down her Instagram account.
It's
because of...
What the fuck? I didn't know that. Like, that is horrible. Like,
that was insane.
Like, maybe that's her way of grieving.
Right?
maybe that's her way of coping. Maybe she's not a social media person. Maybe she just wants to grieve and process her feelings in a private way. We expect celebrities to be 100% transparent. And would you expect that of your neighbor who you don't know? Like, would you expect that of just some random jerk down the street? Like, I don't understand the mindset of this mob mentality. It's like when Carrie Fisher passed away, Steve Martin said she was a beautiful, funny, something intellectual woman. But he said beautiful first. People attacked him. Oh, that's all Carrie Fisher was to you? A beautiful woman? She did this and this and that. It's like, I just paid tribute to a friend of mine who died horribly. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's like they will eat people alive for saying something or not saying something. It's like, it's such a beast. It's just, it's gross. It's just gross to me.
Yeah, and the way, like, for me, when I think of it, like, I might not say anything because first off, social media kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because you say, like, that's a perfect example. You said something, but you said the wrong thing. So now we're going to attack you. Or maybe I just don't know what to say. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say. I can't articulate what I'd want to say.
Maybe someone said it better. Maybe someone articulated it in the way that, you wanted to, and you're just like, yeah, I appreciate that. Or you're just a private person and grieve in private. Like, I just, there was some makeup guru whose father passed away, I think a year or two ago. And fans showed up at his father's funeral asking for pictures. It's like,
what?
Where does this end? Like where is the line of like human decency? And that's what scares me, is that human decency, because of social media, is because it can be anonymous, because you can put something on a computer to make you untraceable to an extent, that you don't have to be a decent person. You can just be a decent and not care because, I'm anonymous. It was just a joke. Like, the internet's forever though, bro. So
it is, yeah. Yeah, the crazy thing. Yeah, the crazy thing too is like sometimes, like let's just take an example, like if someone decides to DDoS attack you, sometimes there's no legal recourse to stop them, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like slander and blackmail can sometimes be really hard to prove. Sometimes, like there was this YouTuber, he helped this girl. She was homeless, and he helped her out, didn't realize she had a internet footprint that was frightening, and it turned into like a single white female situation. I'm going to take over your life. I'm going to say you abused me. I'm going to say that you're abusing your child. You can't prove that you didn't. And it's horrifying. These people are monsters. And all it takes is one Google search to figure out how to do it. Like, and there's no rationality. There's no rationalizing with these people at all. Like, I've spoken on the phone to people who are 100% irrational. Like, there was a customer once who had a conversation with like a chat bot for my work's like online customer service. He had a full-on conversation with a bot and thought it was a real person. And when I tried explaining that to him, no, I know a real person. I know. I was like, no, sir, this is a robot. It keys into specific words that you put in and helps find a solution. That is what it does. It is not a real person. And some institutions, some businesses do have like live chats with like actual customer service reps. I know my business did not. It was telling this bot things about his marriage. Like so irrational. And I felt afraid.
Yeah.
Because if you're that irrational, what else are you capable of? Like, and that's another thing. This mob mentality has no rationality. It does not forget. It is not forgiving.
No, it doesn't.
And I flip-flop a lot on cancel culture, dude. I really do. Because in some cases, I'm like, yeah, if you're a pedophile, I don't care.
You're right. Yeah. Well, I think there's a line, right? Right. If you're a fucking pedophile, or you're fucking like Bill Cosby, or Harvey Weinstein, they can go to hell.
throw them away and lock, like put them away and throw away the key. Like,
yeah. I mean, they're lucky that jail is what they got.
Oh God, yes, because
right.
Like, we know it's a scary world out there, but like I don't. But there is a line.
There's definitely a line.
Like 12 or 15. I think it's also circumstantial. See, this is why I'm torn, because sometimes I think it's circumstantial. If you show no growth whatsoever, then I think there's something bigger going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people. I think we gotta allow people to grow and change for sure. I feel like I don't know. To me, there are definitely times when you can tell. I think there are certain people that get into really toxic rabbit holes, and their behavior doesn't change. But what they'll try and do is they'll say, "Oh, I'm different," but they're not different. They're rebranding their hate.
Exactly.
Those people don't need to be forgiven. Then there are people that are just like, let's just say an example. I had never met a trans person. I never met a gay person. I never met a person who was poor. I never met a person who was black, and that's why my opinions were different. And I met those people, and I was educated, and now I've changed my opinion, and they consistently have a different opinion. Those people, I think, should be forgiven. But yeah, there's a lot of people that kind of play it both ways, like this internet clout game. It just right.
It's just so gross. Like, people jumping on the bandwagon of like Black Lives Matter or Trans Lives Matter or any other thing that matters is just so. It's like, really, because you weren't saying that last week.
Yeah, and then a week later they don't say anything.
And you were saying it 10 years ago. Therefore, you're probably a piece of shit. So, I'm not saying you have to be an activist of everything, but don't lie when it's so obvious. It's just, it's like, there's a term for it, but it's like faux activism, basically. And
yeah,
it's just, it's just gross. It's just gross to me. Like the whole Jake Paul thing, I just can't stand that person. I can't stand him in the slightest. Like, cancel that asshole, because he's clearly not showing any change anytime soon. It's like, I don't care.
I feel like there are very few people that on the internet that are popular, like really, really popular, that I can stand. Like, I have to stay away from them.
Yeah.
There's always something fake, and there's always something like some weird stupidity. I'm just like, I'm here to like, I'm interested in like kind of real human beings that are not just like surfing the wave of the algorithm.
Yeah, and that's why I don't watch a lot of big YouTubers. I watch YouTubers that have like a decent sized following and stuff like that, but I'm interested in their human take on things, and like, yeah, maybe I'll disagree with them sometimes, but I think that's the whole reason why we're here, is to disagree and talk and see things from people's perspective, which is why I don't like such obvious closed-mindedness and this. They're not afraid to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily counterproductive, but hypocritical. They're not afraid to be hypocritical. Like, and it just boggles my mind. They can like live with it. And
yeah, just live with the blatant hypocrisy.
Yeah, I'm just like.
Or it's like, who's the guy? Was it Jake Paul who went to the suicide forest?
Yeah,
Remember
that was Logan Paul.
Logan Paul, yeah.
Brother. I hate that I know so much about these fucking people.
I know, right?
Yeah,
these worthless, mediocre, weird people. Like,
yeah, but at least he's shown. Like, so he did that. He basically got sent to his room by YouTube. Go to your room and think about what you did. And in 6 months, like literally 6 months later, I think maybe even less time than that, they lifted his ban or he couldn't make ad revenue or something like that, which doesn't really hurt him because he's got merchandise, he's got other investments, I'm sure.
Endorsements.
Endorsements.
I mean, once you have that many followers, you can easily monetize. Like the era of YouTube giving people a lot of money through ads is over.
Oh yeah, Adpocalypse destroyed all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And but at least I see some sort of progress from Logan Paul. I see a tiny, minuscule, insy bitsy bit of potential, and that's the hope that keeps me going, is that we can get through the moron who filmed a dead body for profit. Not for profit, that's the only reason why he went there. Then if we can get through to that guy, maybe there's hope, maybe there's potential, maybe there's more to them. Jake Paul? No, absolutely not. Like, at least Logan Paul actually went on a march. I saw him doing things. He wasn't being destructive, even if maybe it was, like, I don't know if it was for just a photo op or something, but at least I saw him doing something. And Jake Paul was obviously just causing a riot. Like that's someone who should belong in jail. Like, that's someone who's a scourge on my mental health. Thinking about people like Jake Paul depresses me. And it's just, the endorsements will keep coming, so I don't need to learn anything. The views they'll start clicking. I'll still get the views because now people want to know what a train wreck I am. Okay, because any amount of attention is good attention. I feel like there's this internet, it's like internet too big to fail, which is a specific type of thing where you have, how many people have 1 million subscribers or followers across platforms, and they do a bunch of things where they actively lose all half of their following. It almost never happens, I don't think. And so because of that, no matter what you do, you're just continually creating more clicks, more impressions, more views. And it's just it just feeds it. It's just feeding itself. It's feeding this negative cycle. Yeah, it's like this monster that we can't see, and the monster is what we, my little sister and I were talking the other night about Karens and how we made Karens. We are the reason there are Karens, because we let them get away with stuff, and we let them get to the point where now they're literally physically assaulting people. They're not even verbally assaulting people anymore.
Yeah.
Because we gave them free stuff, and we gave them this, and we gave them that, because we didn't want to deal with them. That's what we do with a child when, they're acting out. Stick them in front of a freaking iPad, or give them a lollipop, or give them ice cream or something. Just get them to shut up. We made that. And now we're saddled with all of these Karens, and the internet is full of them. We make fun of them, but maybe we were a Karen at one point. We don't know. There's almost a point where we get too self-aware, but then not self-aware enough. You're too self-aware to the point where you're anxious or you're neurotic, and then you're not self-aware enough to know when screaming at someone in a public place is not okay.
Yeah.
And they're all Karens, and creepy fanboys are all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, it's the entitlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this entitled behavior where you think, again, the character from this, Robert, he's oh, well, people need to like me. People need to respect me. I don't need to do anything to earn the respect. I don't need to tell my, the CEO of the company who I've been working for a long time that I'm pissed off with his behavior. I just need to exact revenge without saying anything in a fantasy world.
Exactly. And again, that's not how that's not how real life is. And it's that I didn't do anything wrong. This is owed to me. I deserve this. I should be getting this. Why? But respect, it is earned. It is earned. It is not something you can just demand, because that's when people don't respect you and they act out and don't want to do what you're telling them to do.
Yeah.
When I was a manager, I tried to make sure I was as accessible as humanly possible, because then they'll come to me when they have an issue. They'll tell me when something's wrong. They'll feel okay to approach me. I don't try and rule with this freaking iron fist. If you don't do this, I'm going to be so mad at you. Yeah, because that's really going to make people work harder for you. That's great. Because, again, I've worked with people like that, where if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to be mad, and I'm going to throw a tantrum, and we're going to be here later than we should be. Yeah, because I don't want to work for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that about covers all of the things we probably want to talk about with this show.
A lot today.
Yeah. A lot of good conversation. So a lot of stuff, I think that's what's so cool about the show is like there's all these different topics that come up when you think about what they're trying to put in our head about, because it's not just, they're all like morality kind of plays basically.
Yeah.
These episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your weekend, and may the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.
All right, take care.